Strauss and Josh Rogin. And Alex, to you first. The Speaker seeming to suggest there are lots of Democrats who want to be impeachment managers. I wonder if she says it's because it's a good case. This is an indicator they have a strong case. Do you think that is what it is, or do you think it's that it's very politically advantageous for the districts that some of these folks are in to be in a visible position with this impeachment?
I think it's a whole bunch of things. One, it's historic. I mean, when you go to Congress, and there's not a lot of impeachments in Congress. And so if you were a manager of impeachment of the president, that is a huge deal historically. It certainly obviously plays politically in all of these districts. It's going to be important for their constituents to see that they are really pressing the case against President Trump. But in all of those circumstances, I don't think you want to be a House manager if you have a weak case. And I think the Democrats feel rightly that they have an incredibly strong case against the president in the upcoming impeachment trial.
Josh, I'd be really interested to know who does not want to be an impeachment manager. And I suspect that there are some people, because there were a lot of freshmen who came in turning red districts or purple districts blue.
Yeah, that's right. If you're in a district where you have a mixed electorate, where the people are not sure if this impeachment thing is really a good political move or not, then you want to stay as far away from this as possible. I think it's really likely that Adam Schiff would be one of the impeachment managers, simply because he's been in charge of this the whole time and because he's done this before and led impeachment as a manager in the Senate before. But in the end, the impeachment manager decision seems minuscule in comparison to the decision of how the trial is actually going to be run, and that seems to be squarely in the hands of Senator Mitch McConnell. And despite Nancy Pelosi's refusal to transmit the articles of impeachment, it doesn't seem like Democrats have the leverage to influence those rules or to in any serious way. So I think that will have a much more significant impact on what we see whenever this trial does begin.
Yeah, it's becoming so clear that it's really a statement they're making more than a deal that they're trying to strike here. Daniel, over the weekend, we saw the House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy saying that he would pick Congressman Jim Jordan, Doug Collins, and John Ratcliffe to represent the president in a Senate trial. That's key because these are Trump firebrands who were they were some of the most dramatic parts of the hearings that we saw in the House. If that plays out, is this just going to be a total drama fest, or does the Senate trial play out a little different, where we're not just going to see a repeat of what we saw in the House?
I mean, from the members of Congress you mentioned, it does sound like this is something that Republicans are interested in making a slugfest. These are extremely partisan members of Congress who are favorites of President Trump. They are not the ones who are trumpeting sort of a fair impeachment trial in the sense of saying, let's stick to congressional rules, let's hold up tradition. They are some of Trump's most ardent defenders here. And I think that's what we're going to see overall. The same with Democrats, too. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer has continued to demand for more documents and more high-profile members of the administration to be witnesses. And that's simply something that Mitch McConnell has shown strong opposition to right now. So I don't see a lot of impartial ground here. I think it's going to be a divided event between Democrats and Republicans.
I want to ask you all about something that just came in here to CNN. One of our affiliates reporting that Alaska GOP Senator Lisa Murkowski, while she was taking aim at the House process led by Democrats in the impeachment, she also said that she was disturbed to hear Mitch McConnell say he was working in total coordination with the White House. She said this confused the process even further. I mean, what do you think of that in terms of having Murkowski, someone who caucuses with Republicans, say really what Democrats have been saying about McConnell? What do you think?
I think there's three main people in the Senate that McConnell needs to look out for. I think Murkowski, Romney, and Susan Collins are all folks who may take that tactic and say, listen, we care about the procedure, we care about the institutional interests of the Senate. And I think one of the things about inviting in those House managers for the Republican side in Trump's defense is if it really does become sort of a partisan slugfest, I think they have a chance to lose more Republican senators. You know, this is an interesting impeachment trial because unlike the Clinton impeachment, the grounds for impeachment here against the president are really substantial in a very different way that I think there are some Republican senators who deeply, if they they could. There's been reports that if this was done, behind closed doors about the vote, you'd see 30 Republicans vote to impeach the president. So how this process unfolds, there are some real danger zones for the president and for the Senate Majority Leader.
I just have to slightly disagree there. I don't think that the Republicans are going to lose any senators, and I think we've seen over the course of the last 3 years these so-called moderate centrist Republican senators express concern and feel very disturbed about a lot of the things the president does or that Mitch McConnell does with the White House. And then in the end, they end up just falling in line. And I'm relatively sure that's what you're going to see here across the board. The bigger issue is, of course, why it's disturbing. And that's because the Senate Majority Leader has said that he's going to be as close to the White House as lips and teeth through this whole process, which seems like a corruption of the process to the average viewer. But that's the way it's going to be. The question really is, what does President Trump want? And does President Trump want this to be a circus, or does he want this to be a quick trial? Right now, all indications are that he wants it to be a circus. And if that's what he makes clear, then McConnell will fall in line. And, despite their being disturbed and very concerned, all the Republican senators will fall in line, too. That's my prediction.
Yeah, but if they fall in line, what a mess that is, right? Just what a sad state of our democracy.
That's true.
But guys, look, at the same time, like Murkowski, Romney, Collins, we've seen this before with all of them. They all stamp their feet. They all make a big show of things, but then usually the impact is not as big as what they promise it to be. And I think that's going to be the same situation here. We know Collins in particular likes to make a big show of Senate procedure, but usually falls in line with Republicans here. And at the same end, on the showy trial point, McConnell has indicated that he does not want a super showy trial, while President Trump, true to his form, wants it to be a big splashy event, made for TV event, sort of ripped from the headlines.
So, Josh, at the center of all of this has been Rudy Giuliani. He's facing backlash over some details on his Facebook page. He falsely claimed he was a government official. Okay, a reminder, he's the president's pro bono personal lawyer. He's not a government official. He also claimed that he was a former attorney general of the United States when, actually he was the former associate attorney general under President Reagan. So both of these descriptions have been corrected, but what do you make of this?
Added to the pile of lies and other crazy things that Rudy Giuliani has said over the last few months, as he's run around the world representing the United States in a shadow diplomacy that has apparently been endorsed by the president, but has thrown U.S. policy, especially in Ukraine, but not only Ukraine, into utter chaos. Remember the time that he gave Pompeo a file of smears against the U.S. ambassador, and it said White House on the top of it, okay? So this is a pattern of Rudy Giuliani pretending to be a U.S. government diplomat. Okay, and you could say that since the president endorsed this, that I guess, in a sense, he is representing, the United States because the president gets to make foreign policy. But as we've seen through this impeachment process, Rudy's schizophrenic and often seemingly corrupt shadow diplomacy has done nothing but confuse foreign countries and interject a lot of chaos into our foreign policy. And I think this is just the latest example of that.
All right, Josh, thank you so much. Josh Rogan, Daniel Strauss, and Alex Little. And happy holidays, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Happy holidays.
Still to come, while President Trump